The Long Island Serial Killer, also known as the Gilgo Beach Killer and the Craigslist Ripper, is a still unidentified serial killer who is believed to have murdered somewhere between 10 and 16 people across a 20-year period, and who disposes of his victims' bodies in various areas on the south shore of Long Island, New York. Most of his victims are prostitutes who advertise on Craigslist. We will go through each of the victims and the suspects and persons of interest. Hi there, my name's Misha. Welcome to All Things True Crime, or welcome back if you're a regular. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking it, that way more people will see it, and subscribing to my channel, so you won't miss my next video. The subscribe button is right below the video, and then ding the bell, that way you'll get notified the next time I upload. That's All Things True Crime. It's truly chilling. Let's dig in. Human remains are first discovered in Oak Beach, along the side of Ocean Parkway, on December 11th, 2010. They are discovered on accident during a search as part of an investigation into the disappearance of one Shannon Gilbert, a 24-year-old prostitute who disappeared about 7 months prior, in May. She disappears after fleeing from a client's home. While fleeing the residence, she makes a 23-minute long 911 call, during which she says, quote, "They are trying to kill me." About a month after this happens, the Suffolk County Police Department's Missing Persons Bureau asks an officer, John Malia, to search for Gilbert using his cadaver dog. During the summer of 2010, the officer is unsuccessful in his attempts to locate Gilbert while searching the gated beach community where she had last been seen. Fast forward with me now to December 11th, 2010. He decides to try again, this time staying close to the shoulder of Ocean Parkway. He chooses this area based on FBI data that indicates dumped bodies are frequently found close to roadways. Smart, since that's very true. Cadaver dogs are very talented, and this dog catches the scent through a layer of snow and thick vegetation. That's awesome. The scent is tracked to a skeleton in a disintegrating burlap sack. Yikes. Now remember the burlap sacks for later. The remains are later identified as Melissa Barthelme's. As police continue searching the site, they discover 3 additional bodies: Maureen Brainerd, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. These 4 are found approximately 500 feet from one another, and they are referred to as the Gilgo 4. The first of the Gilgo 4 to go missing is Maureen Brainerd Barnes, a 25-year-old mother of 2 from Norwich, Connecticut. She is short, 4'11", small, 105 pounds, and has hazel green eyes. She is last seen on July 9th, 2007, at her job working at a Super 8 motel in Manhattan. That evening, she calls a friend in Connecticut and tells her that she is planning on meeting a client outside of the motel. Apparently, she also mentions that she's planning to spend the day in New York City. She's never seen or heard from again. We all know the serial killer is called the Craigslist Ripper, right? So it's no surprise then that Maureen is a paid escort who advertises on Craigslist. She says it's to pay the mortgage on her house. Apparently, she quit the industry for around 7 months, but decided to return in order to pay her bills after receiving an eviction notice. That's rough. Here's an odd wrinkle though. Shortly after she disappears, a friend of hers receives a phone call from a number she doesn't recognize. The man on the other end claims to have just seen Maureen and that she is alive and staying at a whorehouse in Queens. When asked, he refuses to identify himself and is unable to tell her the location of the whorehouse. He tells her he will call her back with the address, but never does. She says the caller has no discernible New York or Boston accent. How weird, right? Those are very distinct accents. So, how did he get Maureen's friend's number? Did he know her? Did he pick a random phone number in her phone contacts or something? That's creepy indeed. Her cause of death is strangulation. The second of the Gilgo Four to go missing is Melissa Bartholomew, a 24-year-old from Erie County, New York. She disappears on July 12, 2009. She is living in the Bronx and working as an escort advertising on Craigslist. On the night of her disappearance, she meets with a client, deposits $900 into her bank account, and tries to call an ex-boyfriend, but he doesn't answer, or she can't get through for some reason. Around a week after her disappearance, her teenage sister Amanda starts receiving a bunch of vulgar, mocking, and insulting calls from a random dude who obviously may be the killer using Melissa's phone. These last for 5 weeks. The caller asks if Amanda was a whore like her sister. The calls become increasingly more disturbing and eventually culminated in the caller telling Amanda that Melissa is dead and he is going to, quote, watch her rot. Yikes. Thankfully, law enforcement is able to trace some of the calls to Madison Square Garden, Midtown Manhattan, and Massapequa, but are unable to determine who is making the calls. Melissa's mother says there are, quote, a lot of calls to Manorville from Melissa's cell around the time she disappears. In September 2017, John Betroff, a carpenter from Manorville, who was already convicted of 2 murders, is named a suspect in the Craigslist Ripper cases. More on him later. A lot more. Just wanted to, plant that seed. So Melissa has features similar to Maureen, short and petite. Cause of death is strangulation. Also, the creepy caller is another similarity. The third of the Gilgo Four to go missing is Megan Waterman, a 22-year-old mother of 1 from South Portland, Maine. She goes missing on June 6, 2010. She is an escort who advertises on Craigslist just like Maureen. The day before she tells her 20-year-old boyfriend that she is going out, and will call him later. She never calls and is never seen from again. When she disappears, she is staying at a motel in Hauppauge, New York, which is about 15 miles northeast of Gilgo Beach. She has features similar to Maureen, and cause of death is once again strangulation. The fourth and final of the Gilgo Four to disappear is one Amber Lynn Costello, a 27-year-old from West Babylon, New York. She goes missing on September 2nd, 2010. West Babylon is about 10 miles north of Gilgo Beach. She is an escort and heroin user. The night of her disappearance, she supposedly goes to meet a client who has called her several times, offering her $1,500 for her services. Prior to moving to West Babylon, New York, she is living with her second husband in Clearwater, Florida, and working as a waitress. Not sure why she moved back and without him. Her drug addiction begins when she's a teenager, possibly stemming from sexual abuse from a neighbor when she is just 6 years old. Her family believes she is in a residential drug rehab center when she disappears, so maybe that's why she is in New York by herself when she goes missing. Apparently lying to her family for sure because they think she's in rehab. She isn't immediately reported missing after she abruptly stops responding to calls and texts. I mean, okay, no fault on her family's part since she's supposed to be in rehab and not able to communicate, but I am a little overboard on security and protection, so I would definitely be quick to file a missing persons. Just saying. She has features similar to the other 3. Her cause of death is also strangulation. Seems like the creepy phone calls is not a consistent piece of the MO at this point. 2 for 2 on that. Maybe the dirtbag is still evolving at this point. The scumbag. Oddly enough, another 4 sets of human remains are discovered on March 29th and April 4th, 2011. These are all found in another area off Ocean Parkway near Gilgo and Oak Beaches, and within around 2 miles and east of the Gilgo Four. Rewind with me back to 2003. Partial remains of one Jessica Taylor are found in none other than Manorville, New York. Fast forward to March 2011, more partial remains of Jessica Taylor are found, though not in Manorville, this time along Ocean Parkway. In April, while investigating these new remains, law enforcement discovers 3 additional sets of remains: an unidentified female toddler, yikes, an unidentified Asian adult, and one Valerie Mack. Now, what's interesting about Valerie Mack is that in a similar fashion to Jessica Taylor, other partial remains of hers are found in Manorville, New York, back in November of 2000. During the continued and expanded investigation, 2 more bodies are found. An unidentified woman whose partial remains match other partial remains found in 1996 on Fire Island, another yikes, and an unidentified woman with a very distinct Peaches tattoo who was later determined to be the mother of the unidentified female toddler that's found. Freaking psycho murderer, keeping remains and tossing them in different places. Nutcase. On May 9th, 2011, police determined that Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack must have been murdered by someone not connected to the other murders since their cases are so similar. That sort of sounds reasonable to me. On November 29th, 2011, however, law enforcement changes direction and decides one person is responsible for all 10 murders, and that the murderer is almost certainly from Long Island. Seems the theory about one single murderer comes from the similarities in the characteristics between the forensic evidence and the condition of the remains. In June of 2011, police announced a reward of $25,000 for information leading to an arrest in the case. Shannan Gilbert's remains were finally located in Oak Beach in December 2011, a very long 19 months after she disappears. The cause of her death is contested. All of these murders remain unsolved. Jessica Taylor is a 20-year-old woman living in Manhattan. She goes missing on July 21st, 2003. On July 26th, her naked torso is discovered 45 miles east of Gilgo Beach, missing its head and hands. Yikes. These remains are later identified via DNA analysis. Jessica's torso is found on top of a pile of wood at the end of an access road off of Hasley Manor Road, just north of where it crosses the Long Island Expressway. Her torso is laying on plastic sheeting, and her tattoo has been mutilated with a sharp object, clearly the murderer trying to prevent the tattoo from identifying the remains. More of her remains are located on March 29th, 2011 at Gilgo Beach, including a skull, a pair of hands, and a forearm that all match to Jessica. She has worked as an escort in D.C. and Manhattan, and is last seen working near the Port Authority bus terminal in Manhattan between July 18th through 22nd of 2003. Now, Valerie Mack, also known as Melissa Taylor, is living in Philadelphia. She is working as an escort. She is last seen by family in the spring or summer of 2000 in the Port Republic, New Jersey area. As is this serial killer's type, she is of small stature. Her partial remains are discovered in Manorville on November 19th, 2000, but aren't identified until 2020. Her torso is found in the woods, having been wrapped in garbage bags and dumped around the intersection of Halsey Manor Road and Mill Road, near a set of power lines and power line access road probably used to get her closer to the dump site. More remains are discovered on April 4th, 2011. A head, a right foot, and a pair of hands. Man, yikes. Initially thought to belong to an unidentified person, they were later linked to Valerie Mack / Melissa Taylor. On May 28th, 2020, law enforcement announces the remains belong to Valerie Mack. Again, the remains of her and Jessica Taylor are disposed of in similar fashion and in the same part of Manorville, suggesting a link. On September 20th, 2011, police released sketches of 2 unidentified victims they call Asian Male and Jane Doe No. 6. These remains are found in March and April 2011. They also released pictures of the jewelry found on the remains of the adult female and the female toddler. Jane Doe No. 3, the toddler's mother, also referred to as Peaches, is discovered by police on April 11, 2011. They uncover dismembered skeletal human remains inside a plastic bag around Jones Beach State Park. Later, DNA analysis will positively identify these remains as belonging to the same person as the torso found in Hempstead Lake State Park 14 years earlier. Wow. So on June 28, 1997, this dismembered torso is discovered as belonging to an unidentified African American woman in Lakeville, New York. The torso was discovered in a green plastic Rubbermaid container. That's one heck of a container. Dumped next to a road along the west side of the park. The name Peaches comes from a tattoo they find on the torso. It isn't until December of 2016 that these remains are connected as belonging to the same person. This is when DNA analysis also identifies Peaches as the mother of the female toddler. Baby doe / the female toddler is believed to have been around 16 to 24 months old by some accounts and 1 to 4 years old by others. That's a little bit strange, but okay. These remains are discovered on April 4th, 2011, a week before Peaches' remains are found. They're found about 250 feet from where Valerie Mack's partial remains are located. The toddler's remains are wrapped in a blanket and show no visible signs of trauma. Her mom's body is found 10 miles east. Ah, man, that's so sad. This guy is on a rampage. Scumbag. So, unidentified Asian male is found on April 4th, 2011. It's clear from the remains he died from blunt force trauma. He is discovered at Gilgo Beach, super close to where the Gilgo 4 are found, 5 or so months prior. He is determined to be a biological male but is wearing women's clothing. Not really going to touch that one. He is between 17 to 23 years old, 5'6", and missing 4 teeth. It is determined he's been dead for 5 to 10 years. Jeez. So this one dates back to between 2001 and 2006. Fire Island Jane Doe is discovered, or at least partial remains are discovered on April 4th, 2011 at Tobay Beach. Through DNA analysis, they are linked to a set of severed legs found in a garbage bag on Fire Island 15 years earlier, on April 20th, 1996. They don't know much else about her. On December 13th, 2011, the remains of Shannon Gilbert are discovered in a marsh around a half mile from where she disappeared. It gets weird though. A week prior to her disappearance, some of her clothing and belongings are found in the same vicinity. Also, she is last seen banging on somebody's front door, screaming for help, before just bolting off into the dark. She then makes that 911 call I talked about a minute ago, saying that she's scared for her life. She is an escort. However, law enforcement say they don't believe she is a victim of the Craigslist Ripper. Before her mother dies, she always advocates that her daughter was in fact murdered by a serial killer. And it fits the MO, so why try and say she isn't a victim of his? Whatever. So here's a quick timeline. 1996, partial remains of Fire Island Jane Doe were found. 1997, Peaches' partial remains were found at Hempstead Lake State Park. 2000, Valerie Mack disappears and partial remains are found in Manorville. 2003, Jessica Taylor disappears and partial remains are found in Manorville. 2007, Maureen Brainerd Barnes disappears and the friend receives that creepy call from the dude saying that she's alive and staying at a whorehouse in Queens. 2009, Melissa Bartholomew disappears and her sister receives a series of creepy calls from a dude using her cell phone. He eventually tells her that Melissa is dead. 2010, a lot happens this year. Shannon Gilbert flees a client's house, calls 911, bangs on doors, runs away, and then disappears. Megan Waterman and Amberlynn Costello also disappear. Melissa Bartholomew's, Megan Waterman's, Amberlynn Costello's, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes' remains are all found. And that rounds out the Gilgo 4. 2011, another busy year. More remains belonging to Jessica Taylor are discovered at Gilgo Beach. More remains belonging to Valerie Mack are found. The remains of the female toddler are found, as well as unidentified Asian male. More remains belonging to Peaches are found near Jones Beach State Park. More remains belonging to Fire Island Jane Doe are discovered at Tobay Beach, and Shannon Gilbert's remains are uncovered at Oak Beach in a marsh. Then nothing for 5 years. 2016, partial remains belonging to Peaches and Jane Doe number 3 are determined to be the same person. 2017, John Betroff, a carpenter from Manorville, briefly touched on him earlier, is named a suspect in the Craigslist Ripper case. In 2017, he is convicted of murdering 2 prostitutes, Rita Tangretti and Colleen McNamee. Their remains were found in 1993 and 1994. Then nothing for nearly 3 years. 2020, Valerie Mack's remains are identified as hers. Her remains were previously unidentified. Now, there are several other potential victims of this sicko. Man, if this is the work of one dude, he's one sick bastard. I mean, jeez. Okay, on to the additional possible victims, like 6 or 7 more. A few identified, the rest not. Yikes. Okay. Tina Elizabeth Foglia is a 19-year-old last seen in the wee hours on February 1st, 1982. Yeah, 1982. So, we're going back a long way. That would mean this dude could have a 28 or 29-year murder spree that includes maybe as many as 17 victims known about, so far. If all the work of one murderer, it's pretty crazy. So she is last seen at the Hammerheads Rock venue on Sunrise Highway in West Islip, New York. Apparently, she hitchhikes from her home to the venue because that's safe. She wants to see a friend perform at the event in a band from Queens called Equinox. Her remains are discovered by Department of Transportation employees on February 3rd on the shoulder of the Sagittos State Parkway. She is dismembered and placed in 3 separate plastic garbage bags. Interestingly, she is found just a couple miles north of the Robert Moses Causeway, which is the road that leads directly to Gilgo and Oak Beaches. The dirt bag. Her diamond ring is missing from her remains, and male DNA is discovered on the bags that her body is in. While law enforcement is open to the idea that she is an early victim of the Craigslist Ripper, they have stated that it is not, quote, an active avenue of the investigation. Next up is Shannon Marie Gilbert, which we covered her earlier in the video. The investigation into her disappearance is what uncovered all of this and really kicked off the investigation into this serial killer dirtbag. In her 911 call, she tells the dispatch that someone is, quote, after her and, quote, they are trying to kill her. Now, is she referring to they as one person, like we all do sometimes? No, not because of gender pronoun preference. Or was there more than one person after her that night? After pulling her from the marsh they found her in, the medical examiner does an autopsy and concludes that she accidentally drowned. Now, the ruling is that she was in a drug-induced panic and say that her death was death by misadventure. Haven't heard that one before. And that it's inconclusive. Maybe she was high, but it seems like someone was indeed after her. And an accidental drowning can happen, but if they really believe that, then why did they rule it inconclusive? I mean, even if she did accidentally drown, she was likely trying to hide from the scumbag, so still his fault. Her blood is on his hands, if you ask for my 2 cents. Okay, and here it is. On November 15th, 2012, her mother sues the Suffolk County Police Department for answers surrounding her daughter's death. Due to the controversy surrounding it, an independent autopsy is performed by a famous forensic pathologist called Dr. Michael Baden. During his autopsy, he discovers damage to her hyoid bone. Hello, she was strangled, dummies. He also notes that her body was found face up, which, hello, isn't common for drowning victims. Idiots. Even with all this new evidence brought to light by this famous forensic pathologist who's brilliant, the police department still lists her death as an accident. Pissing me off. Odd twist. On July 23rd, 2016, Shannon's mother is murdered in her home in Ellenville, New York. Later that same day, her other daughter, Sarah, is arrested and charged with stabbing her mother to death. Yikes. Okay. On May 6, 2020, the New York State Supreme Court orders the police department to release the 911 call. denying their request to withhold it after over 10 years of keeping it quiet. The tapes are released to the estate's attorney, John Ray. He is barred from discussing the specifics of it by court order, but does mention that the call contradicts what detectives have described in previous reports. He claims she was not calm on the call, which directly contradicts police reports from earlier. On May 13, 2022, law enforcement releases the 911 call. Andre Isaac is a 25-year-old professional drag queen who is 6'5". In November of 2002, he disappears from East New York. On December 17th, his torso is discovered on Beach 63rd Street on the boardwalk in Arvin, Queens. On January 25th, 2003, in Moriches, New York, his head is discovered by ice skaters in East Mill Pond. Oof. Yikes. The head has a single bullet wound to the temple. His arms and legs are later found in plastic bags several miles away. This is ridiculous. What in the heck? Yikes, man. Jeez. Jacqueline Ashley Smith is last seen in Brooklyn, New York on August 7th, 1999. She is 16. She goes to hang out with friends at around 9 or so p.m. and just, never returns. It's kind of weird though. She isn't reported missing for 5 days until the 12th. It seems like a long time to wait to report your 16-year-old daughter missing. Jeez. On June 20th, 2020, an unidentified female torso is recovered near Beach 88th Street in Rockaway Beach, Queens, New York. Her torso was found in plastic bags and wrapped with tape. They have not recovered any other body parts. These remains have been confirmed to belong to her. Hers and Andre Isaac's remains are found pretty close to one another. Next up is Tanya Rush. She disappears on June 23, 2008. She is a mother of 3 who works as a Salvation Army volunteer while also working in telemarketing. She begins a career in prostitution as a means to support a drug addiction. That's really sad. She's last seen around 3 a.m. in Brooklyn making her way to a subway station. On June 27, 2008, her dismembered remains are discovered by a state road cleaning crew. Her remains are found in a black canvas suitcase on the New Bridge ramp that leads to the westbound Southern State Parkway in Belmore, New York. On January 23, 2013, unidentified human remains are discovered at the end of Sheep Lane in Laddingtown near Oyster Bay. They're found in a small patch of brush in a sandy area along the shore by a woman walking her dog. Weird, but the skeletal remains are wrapped in some kind of material that the police refuse to disclose. They show signs of trauma too. The remains appear to belong to a woman between 20 and 30 years old who is possibly Asian. The remains have a 22-karat solid gold pig pendant. Police say could be related to the Chinese zodiac year of the pig. Those relevant years for that are 1971, 1983, and 1995, which indicates she's 29 years old. Law enforcement believes she is dumped in late 2012 before Hurricane Sandy. She's found 32 miles away from the other 10 bodies in and around Gilgo Beach. Difference being she is buried, unlike all the others. Well, that's interesting. On March 3, 2007, a suitcase washes up on the beach at Harbor Island Park in the town of Mamaroneck. Not good. I'd hate to be the poor sucker who opens this one thinking he's found some treasure. Oh. Instead, the suitcase contains, you guessed it, a dismembered torso. Now this time it is of an unidentified Hispanic or light-skinned African-American woman. Torso. Yikes. She is referred to as Cherries because of a tattoo on her torso, similar to why Peaches is referred to as Peaches. It is clear that she has been stabbed to death. On March 21st, 2007, one of her legs washes up on shore at Cold Springs Harbor. On March 22nd, 2007, the next day, the other leg washes up on shore at Oyster Bay in Cove Neck. No thank you. Yikes. Just like 3 others, Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, and Peaches, she is dismembered in a similar fashion, indicating a connection to the Long Island serial killer / the Craigslist Ripper. If these are connected, which I believe they are, This psychotic bastard has been busy. I wonder if there may be a team of 2 or something. I mean, jeez. Okay, so we've made it through all the victims. But before we get to the suspects and the persons of interest, how do you release these remains? Like, did he have a boat? So did he have... I mean, there's no indication they were frozen. So did he thaw them out, put them on his boat, go out in the water, and then chuck them close to shore so they would get found? How do you... Or did he just walk the beach and chuck arms and legs and then they were found? How do you stage something? How long did he keep these remains? Did he have ginormous freezers in his basement? I don't understand how you keep 10 to 17 dismembered remains, all kinds of remains, arms and legs and heads and torsos, and then you somehow stage it at certain beaches or different parks. I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Okay. Mind blown. Okay, on to the suspects and persons of interest. John Petrov, I mentioned him earlier. He is arrested in 2014 after his DNA is found on 2 murdered women. The 2 we discussed earlier, Rita Tangredi and Colleen McNamee. If you remember, these bodies were found in 93 and 94. The DNA match comes through his brother, who is convicted of something else in 2013, and then they use his DNA to find John and connect him to these 2 murders. He's convicted in May of 2017, and in September is sentenced to 2 consecutive 25-year terms. Also in September, Suffolk County prosecutor Robert Biancavilla says that John is not only suspected of a 3rd murder, but also a suspect in at least 1 of the Long Island serial killer murders. The prosecutor believes John is likely responsible for multiple women's murders, saying there are similarities between the Gilgo Beach murders and John's known murders. Interesting assertion, and one the Suffolk County Police are quiet on due to the active investigation into the Long Island serial killer murders. John's attorney, of course, rejects the assertion. So, Johnny Boy lives in Manorville, a short 3 miles from where Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack's torsos are discovered. Thinking of the Long Island serial killer's obsession with dismemberment, Johnny Boy is an avid hunter who enjoys killing animals. Now, nothing wrong with hunting, but it is a relevant fact to this case. He is also a carpenter by trade and has access to lots of different types of saws, like, hacksaws and electric saws of various kinds, etc. Also, nothing wrong with owning those and being skilled in their use, but it is interesting and relevant when you consider the fact that many of the Long Island serial killer's victims' remains are found very precisely dismembered. One would need to own such tools, be comfortable using them, and precise in your ability. It certainly is something to note. Another creepy connection to this serial killer. Rita Tangredi, one of John's victims, her daughter is best friends with Melissa Barthelemy, who is one of the Gilgo Beach victims. Yikes. Joseph Brewer lives in Oak Beach. He is one of the last known people to see Shannon Gilbert alive. On the night she disappears, using Craigslist, he hires her as an escort. He says that very soon after she arrives at his home, she begins acting very strange, erratic really, and then flees his home. And then this is when she's seen running through Oak Beach, knocking on front doors in the neighborhood, and then when she gives that 23-minute 911 call saying they were trying to kill her. Law enforcement investigate him and very quickly clear him of any wrongdoing, not finding any evidence of anything murder-related. Former Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke. Yikes, that's quite, you better be sure before you go after somebody like that, accusing someone like him. He's a police chief. You better have some evidence. So he is reported as having blocked an FBI probe of the Long Island serial killer case during his time as police chief. Interesting. So Burke violently assaults a man in custody who steals a duffel bag from his police car. The duffel bag contains sex toys, a pornographic DVD, and Viagra. Whatever, I guess, but since it's in his police car, I'm going to say yikes. Burke pleads guilty in February of 2016 to charges of civil rights violation and conspiracy to obstruct justice. In November 2016, Burke is sentenced to 46 months in federal prison for the assault and conspiracy charges. Thomas Spota, the district attorney at the time, is convicted in 2019 of conspiracy to cover up Burke's violent assault. A man by the name of Christopher McPartland, who is the top anti-corruption prosecutor at the time, is also convicted in the conspiracy. Geez, oh folks, lots of crap going on there in Suffolk County. Time to drain that swamp. Interesting story here. In December 2016, an attorney for Shannan Gilbert's family reports that an escort who identifies herself as Leanne has stated that she suspects Burke may be connected to the Long Island serial killer cases. She goes on to say that one time at a party she was at in April 2011 at Oak Beach, she witnessed Burke pull an Asian woman by the hair to the ground. She continues to claim that when she is at this party in August of 2011, a different party, Burke is also there and they engage in, activities. She describes that during their interaction he violently yanks her head so hard that she tears up. She says he isn't satisfied with their interaction as he isn't able to, cross the finish line, and he just throws a bunch of cash at her, like $300 or $400. And what's even weirder about this is that she isn't a prostitute at this time, so why did he throw money at her? She claims this is the first time she ever was paid for services. Okay, so let's go back just a bit. So on December 10th, 2015, the Suffolk County Police Commissioner, Tim Siney, announces the FBI is officially joining the investigation. This announcement comes one day after Burke is indicted for the assault and conspiracy charges. He actually resigns in October of 2015, is indicted in December, and then the FBI jumps in. While the FBI has previously assisted in the search, up until this time they are not considered to be part of the investigation. And then, as I said earlier, in November 2016, Burke is sentenced to 46 months in federal prison for the assault and conspiracy charges. Let's talk briefly about a man named Peter Hackett. This dude is a doctor and Joseph Brewer's neighbor. He has previously worked as a police surgeon for Suffolk County. 2 days before Shannan Gilbert's disappearance, he calls her mother. Her mother will later say that Hackett tells her he is taking care of Shannan since he, quote, ran a home for wayward girls. He continues to say that he gave her medication because she was distressed. It's just strange, right? 3 days later, Hackett calls Shannan's mother again, this time denying that he has had any contact with Shannan and that he has not previously called her. That's really weird. So law enforcement, of course, investigate and confirm through those pesky phone records, I didn't call her. They confirm Hackett did indeed call her 2 different times after Shannan disappears. If you recall, Shannan is found in a marsh. Well, said marsh is near Hackett's backyard, while her personal belongings, including her clothing, is found directly behind his backyard in said marsh. Coincidence? Possibly. Her family files a wrongful death lawsuit against him in November of 2012, claiming he took Shannan into his home that morning and administered drugs to her, thus facilitating her death. Of course, the lawsuit is dismissed as it cannot be proven that he did any of that. It's all creepy, but I'm glad it was dismissed. They had no proof or grounds to sue him for her death. That's ridiculous. Law enforcement later reveals that Hackett has a history of inserting himself into and or exaggerating his role in certain major events. Seems like that's what's going on here as the police investigate and eventually rule him out as a suspect in her death and in all of the Long Island serial killer victims. Not long after all this nonsense, Hackett picks up and leaves Oak Beach, moving his family to Florida. Final suspect / person of interest is James Bissett. 2 days after Shannan Gilbert's remains are found, James, who is a businessman, commits suicide in his car at Mattituck Park. One of his businesses is a plant nursery, which is the main supplier of burlap in the region. Interesting, since many of the victims' remains were found wrapped in burlap, and some were even strangled with it. People have long speculated about this serial killer and his profile. Many say the perpetrator is most likely a white male in his mid-20s to mid-40s. This person is very familiar with the south shore of Long Island. He has access to burlap sacks, which are used to hold the bodies for disposal. It's possible he has detailed knowledge of law enforcement and investigative techniques, which is why he is able to avoid detection and perhaps even has ties to law enforcement, not to mention access to and skills with saws. So, are all these murders connected? I think so. Who did it? Well, while Burke seems off and it's strange he is at those parties, I think Betroff is most likely our guy. Or maybe Burke and Betroff are both a part of it, but separately? Or maybe it's neither of them. I don't know. On January 16th, 2020, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Geraldine Hart releases images of a belt that is found during the initial investigation near Ocean Parkway in Gilgo Beach. The belt is black leather and the letters HM or WH are embossed on it, depending on the orientation of the belt. Law enforcement believe the belt was handled by the serial killer and that it does not belong to any of the victims. Police only reveal a few details surrounding the belt, and how valuable or not it is to the investigation, we don't know. They will not reveal exactly where it was found either. They also announce that new scientific evidence is being used in the investigation and that a website called www.gilgonews.com has been launched to enable the department to share news and receive tips regarding the investigation. Since we don't know if Betroff is the Craigslist Ripper, this psycho could still be running around Long Island. Are bodies still turning up? Well, not that we're aware of. Does that mean he stopped? Maybe. Or did he just get better at disposing of his victims' remains? Or is he stashing them? Well, that's a creepy thought. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to this channel. I've recently received several video requests from a few great subscribers, so next week we're going to learn all about Herbert Mullen, also known as the Earthquake Killer, an American serial killer who murders 13 people in California in the early 1970s as blood sacrifices to Mother Nature in order to keep earthquakes away. Catch all the details surrounding this nutcase next time right here on All Things True Crime. It's truly chilling. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe.